Is Ginny Yurich. Um, I am the founder of a movement called 1000 Hours Outside, which is primarily just about balancing nature and screen time during childhood and sort of reclaiming those moments that really make us feel alive and really contribute to health and development. I'm so thrilled to be here. Amy Olson asked me, it was a long time ago, to be part of your conference, and I love librarians and I love the library. I have really, really fond memories of going to the library program at Alicia, let me just ask you a question really quick. It says, do we want to use closed captions? Should I hit yes?
You can if you'd
I like
like. I'm
closed
recording it,
captions. I'm
so
thinking
I've
I'm going
got
to hit
closed
yes.
captions on mine.
I'm doing it.
So
Welcome everyone that's coming in. My name is Ginny Yurich from 1000 Hours Outside, and I was talking about how I have just really fond memories from my childhood of the library program in our city, and my mom always signed us up at the beginning of the summer. And I just remember, they put these things on the wall with your name, and we did our logs. And I remember, I have vivid memories of going and seeing the tables of books, and you'd win a book prize at the end of the summer, and just really enjoying that. And so I'm thrilled to be here. And like I said, I love the library. I love librarians. Our family loves to read. And so what we're going to be talking about today is sort of this combination of reading and nature time, and how it's such a powerhouse combination for families, for children, especially for summertime. And so I've got the chat up on the side. If you have any questions, you can put them there, or if you have questions at the end, I'm going to leave time to answer those. And so here we go. I'm starting with my favorite quote. So you guys are librarians. I would imagine you have a lot of favorite quotes. This is my favorite quote of all quotes, and it is from John Holt. He says, living is learning, and when kids are living fully and energetically and happily, they are learning a lot, even if we don't always know what it is. And that quote just reminds me of summer. It reminds me of those long summer days where kids are sort of free and unhampered and running around and doing their reading program and just really enjoying life. And I think, I see a whole lot of growth that happens in my children over the summer. I see growth that even happens in my life over the summer. And so it's really neat that I think that these summer library programs and the youth librarian and the children librarians at the libraries are really a big part of this sort of full and energetic summer living. I love this one. We read with our children because it gives both them and us education of the heart and mind, of intellect and empathy. We read together and learn stories, because stories teach us how to love. So I really just wanted to start off by saying thank you. Thank you to the librarians. Thank you. I loved our librarians. We knew their names and they knew us and helped us walk us down the aisles to find books. And librarians have helped our children, when they wanted the Pokemon books, or, they wanted the superhero books, or they say, I really liked reading Little Women. What book is like that? Or so I wanted to start off by saying thank you for what you're doing. It just from a personal level, I have been so impacted by children's programs, and then also my kids have as well. And even the programs that you bring in that are not reading specific. We had a program at our local library with all these bubbles. This guy brought in these bubbles, and then the animal program. And so all of these things you do are adding so much to childhood. And so I just wanted to start off by saying thank you. So additionally, I'm going to tell you just a little bit of my story. I threw my favorite books up there: Matilda, Little Women, The Seven Silly Eaters. Can you throw in the chat if you've read The Seven Silly Eaters? That's my favorite book to read to my kids. I love All the Light We Cannot See, Where the Crawdads Sing. Those are some of my favorites. You could throw some of your favorites in the chat as well, maybe from your childhood or ones you like to read to kids or grandkids. Those are some of my favorite books. But my story is that we had kids back to back, and so we had three under three for a time period. And um, when our kids were little, I was really drowning as a mom, and I felt that the needs were insurmountable, um, and I was struggling to get from day to day. And I didn't really know what to do with our kids. We did the library programs that were in our area. Um, I remember those struggling through them because I just had all these little kids, and if I one needed a diaper change, and it was just a lot to juggle. And so part of my journey was when my kids were small, someone had told me about Charlotte Mason, who I'm not sure if you've heard of, but Charlotte Mason was like an educational philosopher in the 1800s, sort of the turn of the century. And she talked about that kids should be outside for 4 to 6 hours whenever the weather is tolerable. And we're in Michigan, so we're neighbors. So, similar weather. It's probably a little bit colder up here, but not much. We definitely have the long winter and all the seasons. And so I remember when she told me about this 4 to 6 hours about being outside, I just remember thinking that it sounded absurd and outlandish. And, what, what holds a child's attention for that long, especially a young child? I remember trying to do crafts or Play-Doh, things like that. And nothing held my kids' attention for very long. In fact, I felt like the setup took longer. The setup and the cleanup took longer than the actual activity. But in order to sort of facilitate friendships for myself and for my kids, I went with this friend to a local park. And this is 10 years ago. 10 years ago, this is September of 2011, and we met up for 4 hours. It was 9 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon, and we both brought a picnic. And that one day changed my life. It brought me hope because our kids just played, and I didn't really know that kids would do that. As silly as that sounds, we went to a park and it had nothing. I mean, there was no playground. It was just a field that had a creek that went through. There was ducks. And our kids, we each had a babe in arms, and our kids just sort of ran around and they played. And so we sort of shifted our life at that point, to prioritize these outside times because it just helped the day pass. And in time, I started to really notice that this outdoor play was really enhancing our children's development. And my journey there is that, I began to come across books and research, and I have, like stacks of books at this point, that are filled with the benefits of outdoor play for kids, and how it helps them cognitively, it helps their brains work better, and how it helps them emotionally and physically and socially, it helps their social skills. And so I thought, so talking with Amy, what a cool thing to do is sort of combine these nature elements and these reading elements, because you as a librarian, I think you stand in the gap for these kids and these families, sometimes for all the sort of things that they don't know or they don't realize, like how I as a parent, I just didn't know. I didn't know how powerful outside time is for our health and for our moods. And I was missing that. And when we added that piece, it really changed our whole life. And so especially with these summer reading programs and things, seem like just, a good pairing. And parents, I think, often look to librarians and summer programs and things like that to sort of help guide them in their parenting journey. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Hopefully some of this information is new to you and informative. And I got some different ideas. So we'll see if they fit. Okay, so everyone talks about the summer slide, right? The summer slide is when kids seem to lose some of their academic skills or knowledge. But my experience is that, in fact, this is quite the opposite, that summer is really a time for growth because kids have a lot of freedom, and kids are really good at knowing what comes next in their development. Even if we look at young children, we look at babies, if they're neurotypical or neurodiverse, they have, they have their different paths that they take. But they tend to know what comes next. So you would have a baby that gets up on all fours, and then the baby starts to crawl, and no one's teaching them any of those things. And the way that we self-educate and the way that we sort of come up with our own course of instruction, especially young children, that continues on. And so as a librarian with your summer programs, I think that's what you're encouraging, is you're encouraging this self-learning and finding books that kids love. And so I have found that the summer can just be full and rich, a great learning experience. Teacher Tom says, I am comfortable knowing that children are learning because they are playing, and that's enough. So that's an encouraging word for me as a mom, to know that I can step back and let my kids play and know that that's enough. Dr. Peter Gray wrote a book of mine that has changed my life. I'd be curious in the comments if you're familiar with the book Free to Learn by Dr. Peter Gray. I'm going to type it in here. And actually just did a podcast with him, but his book changed my life and would be a really good one, I think, for parents. And he talks about how unleashing the instinct to play makes kids happier and better students for life. I don't have the whole subtitle there, but I've got it actually later in the presentation. But one of the things he says is the most important lessons of life cannot be taught and can only be learned in real life. In real life, we learn how to make our own decisions, how to create our own activities, how to actually do things as opposed to memorize things. For school children, summer is the time of immersion in real life. School at best prepares children for more school. Real life prepares children for real life. So I love this. I just love that librarians are so immersed with the children in their community during this summertime, which to me is just a time of huge growth. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is something that I had no idea was happening, and that is that outdoor play helps children develop cognitively. And so I think we tend to think of learning as sitting. We're sitting at a desk, there's a teacher, there's a worksheet, there's a chalkboard, there's a pencil, that these are the images that come to mind when we think of learning and when we think of academics. But one of the things that I've been learning over the last several years is that complex movements enhance the way our brains function. So this is a quote from a book called Smart Moves, and I'm going to have a list of these books on one of the last slides. But this book is called Smart Moves, and I'm holding it up down here, by Carla Hannaford. And the subtitle is Why Learning is Not All in Your Head. Carla Hannaford's a PhD, and she is a pediatric occupational therapist. And so a lot of these pediatric occupational therapists are speaking out about movement and play and how we're missing a lot of those elements in childhood, which is leading to a fair amount of need for extra services. And so what they're sort of saying, these pediatric occupational therapists, is if we added these play elements back into childhood, those are really what helps kids thrive and develop. So she has this quote, which I think is fascinating. She says, elderly people who dance regularly decrease their risk of dementia and Alzheimer's disease by 76%, and those that play a musical instrument decrease the risk by 69%. So those are huge numbers. They're huge. If there was something that you could, if someone said, hey, I've got this, this fruit, or this regimen, that would help you to decrease your chance of getting Alzheimer's or dementia by 76%, I think that many of us would be inclined to take that, or to do that protocol. And so what she's talking about here is that these complex movements, dancing and playing musical instruments, that's keeping our brains sharp. So complex movements, they enhance our brain function. They also protect our brain function. And so during the summer, or whenever kids play outdoors, they are drawn to complex movements all on their own. So, you would see a toddler, and a toddler's just learning to walk. Well, then they're going to go and they're going to walk on the varied terrain that's outside. They're going to walk down the hill and they're toddling down, or there's roots that are coming out of the ground. And then they're going to progress from that, and they're going to step up on a small log, and then they're going to jump off. We've all seen kids, their bodies draw them to do these things, and in doing so, they're enhancing their brain function. And we don't know what jobs are coming down the pipeline, right? So what we really want is we want our kids to have these quick and adaptable brains that work really well, so that they can adapt to whatever changes are coming, whatever jobs are coming. You look ahead, like in 2025, there's jobs like a drone manager. That sounds like a fun job, right? Or I don't know, space tourism guide. So these are the jobs that are coming down the pipe. And when kids are actively moving and playing, and they're doing double Dutch jump rope, think about what you did on the playground as a kid. We would hang upside down on the monkey bars and then flip off. Or what did you do? Okay, Rich is going to be a drone pilot. It's a great career, Rich. I love it. So if you could even put in the comments here in the chat, what are some of the things that you love to do as a child on a playground? And I would imagine that a little bit of involved risk, and it involved increasingly complex movements. Kids, they increase in their capacity. And so with each increase, they're helping their brains. And so anything that you can do as a librarian, someone who's involved with kids in the summer, anything that you can do to help them move and to help encourage them, to be outdoors and to be engaging in these complex movements, that is going to help them academically for the following school year. So in the same book, Carla Hannaford, Smart Moves, Why Learning is Not All in Your Head, she says, the richer our sensory environment and the greater our freedom to explore it, the more intricate will be the patterns for learning, thought, and creativity. So this is why I'm saying summer is like this time for an explosion of growth for our children, often for ourselves, just when we're playing and we're getting outside. And one of the things that I've learned over the years is about the vestibular sense. I'd never heard this word. I'm typing it down in here because I'd never heard it. You guys probably are familiar with this, but I'd never heard of this. When I was younger, we learned about the five senses: sight, smell, taste, touch, and I'm missing one, whatever the other one is. Hearing, right? I guess that's the fifth. But apparently there's 12 senses, and the other ones that are outside of those five have really cool names. So this one is the vestibular sense, and it comes from the word vestibule, which is like connecting to your brain, the path to your brain. And the vestibular sense is this cornerstone sense. It's developed by 5 months in utero, and it helps all of the other senses perform and work and enhance development. So it's where your body learns where it is in space. And the way that the vestibular sense is activated is by getting your head out of an upright position. So you think about, what are the things that kids love to do? Well, they love to cartwheel, they love to somersault, they love to go on the swing and throw their head back, right? They love to tip their chairs at school. Did anybody else do that? Any chair tippers? When I was in elementary school, I was always tipping my chair back. The teachers are always like, stop, So, kids do this rough and tumble play. They hang upside down, and by getting their heads out of an upright position, it's activating that vestibular sense, and their body is learning where they are in space. And then that helps all the other senses to function in the ways they're supposed to function. And so, well, what do we have now? We have kids that are sitting, for a majority of the day. They're on screens for 4 to 7 hours. They're sitting in a classroom. Even it's a cool thing. Like if your kid lays down to read, they lounge. That's good that they're getting their head out of a different position. And that's so good for them. And so by encouraging these certain types of play, it's helping their brains develop. And one thing I learned that was really interesting is that um, inside of our ears, there's all these little hairs. And so when we move and we get our head out of an upright position, there's fluid that flows through these little hairs that are in the inside of our ears. And that's sort of what's helping the kids learn where they are in space, where their bodies are. And as we get older, as we hit puberty, that fluid, it thickens. And so the little hairs that are in our ears, they don't pring back. I don't even know if that's a word. They don't pop back like how they did when we were younger, because that fluid gets thicker, and it's called like endolymph fluid or something. I don't know. I don't even know. It's probably, I think that's what it's called. But that fluid gets thicker. And so as we get older, it takes longer for the hairs to get back to the original position. And that's why we often get motion sick. So I get motion sick even on a swing, where I didn't when I was young. And so this is sort of the time period for kids to be out and moving in ways that get their heads out of an upright position. And then as you get older, they talk about, more like more natural ways to work on your vestibular sense. And even the power of sunshine is so good for kids and for adults. It's this quote says, not a single cell in the body, not a single cell can escape the influence of light striking the eyes. To date, approximately 100 bodily functions have been identified as having daily rhythms. And so this is something I've been learning about recently, which is truly just the simple effects of sunlight hitting our eyes. It has been calculated that the entire volume of blood pumped by the heart circulates through the eyes every 2 hours. The eyes are the only part of the body where light can enter through a series of transparent biological windows. These windows, the cornea, aqueous humor, lens, and vitreous humor, allow the energy of light to directly stimulate the eyes and blood and to indirectly stimulate all other bodily functions. So one of the things that's happening is when we go outside, let's say we go outside in the morning, that sunlight hits your eyes. It's a certain amount of lux. It's full spectrum sunlight. It's way brighter than it is indoors. And that sends a signal to your body, and your body releases serotonin. So this is great. This is a great thing to do year round, a great thing to tell parents, take your book out on the porch. It's really going to make a huge difference. If you are encouraging them to read and you just add in that little bit, well, read at the park, read on your if you're in an apartment but you have a little balcony, or we used to live in a townhouse. We had we didn't have a yard, but we had these couple little balconies, and you put a chair out there or a hammock depending on how big it is. And if you go outside and you read your book out there, then you're going to get all these additional benefits from the sunlight. And so in the morning, if you expose your body to sunlight, your body will release serotonin, and that's our feel-good chemical, right? So we're going to start our body and we're going to feel good in the morning. And as the day progresses, that serotonin turns into melatonin, and that's what helps us to sleep at night. And so if our kids aren't sleeping well, one of the things that we can do is we can expose them to morning sunlight, which is a little counterintuitive, but it's the way our cyclical bodies work. They work with the circadian rhythm, and sunlight really helps to get that in order. And I did a podcast recently with a sleep doctor, and he was talking about how even if you have a baby, like put one of those lights, like those indoor lights that are really bright, that sometimes people use in the winter, to help with depression and things. Put one of those by their changing table, so that when you wake up in the morning and it's 7 o'clock, it's 7 in the morning, you change them under that bright light so that their body is getting these signals to wake up. And so it's a good combination, that if we're already reading, but we can take that reading outdoors. We can sit around at maybe the campfire, and have a little reading light and read stories to our kids, and that the colors of the day, they help guide our bodies. And so just such a cool combination. So a little bit more about eyes, because something I learned a while ago was about how we talk about things like 20/20 vision, and kids can have really good vision, but not be good at tracking with their eyes together. And that's really a precursor for reading. And so, as librarians, when you have your younger kids coming in, your 2-year-olds, your 3-year-olds, your 4-year-olds, your 5-year-olds, if you're encouraging outdoor play, you are going to help set them up for a lifelong reading skills. So even an infant in a baby carrier, so we had a little baby carrier, and and you go on a hike, and in this constant up and down motion on this hike. And what's happening is that baby's eyes are constantly having to readjust and work together to get there for their gaze. And so this outdoor play, kids that are running on uneven surfaces, kids that are seeing a depth of field, that's different from what's indoors. We see these four walls, but when we go outside, we see a far distance. There's also little ants, there's birds that are flying. There's all sorts of things to see. And so during this outdoor play, our eyes are learning how to work together, and then the child is better able to track. And so sometimes kids who go to the eye doctor, they have 20/20 vision, their vision is fine, but their eyes don't track well together, and so they really struggle with reading. And if you're able to encourage outdoor play, especially for the young ones, that's going to help set them up physically to be able to be good readers. So some cool things about our eyes: they are the most intricate and complex thing that any human has conceived to date. So an eye, it has 1 billion working parts. One eye, one of our eyes, it has 1 billion working parts. And the most complex thing built to date is a space shuttle, and the space shuttle has 500 million working parts. So we have these eyes are just so complex and intricate and cool, and sunlight does a whole lot for them. Let's see, the eyes represent 2% of our body weight, but require the eyes and brain, but require 25% of our nutritional intake. They're the entry point for 90% of all the information we learn in a lifetime. So there's some other interesting things there. The eyes are the major access routes by which light enter the body. And by getting kids outside, we're just helping their eyes work. So maybe I think it was Alicia was putting up some links for me. This book is also by a pediatric occupational therapist. I'm going to show you. And it's one that I like personally think every parent should read. This one is called Balanced and Barefoot: How Unrestricted Outdoor Play Makes for Strong, Confident, and Capable Children. Balanced and Barefoot: How Unrestricted Outdoor Play Makes for Strong, Confident, and Capable Children. Same thing, pediatric occupational therapist. She's talking about how there's, a wait list of a year often to get services that kids need. And she talks about how simple outplay can really be a fix. So one of the things she talked about, once again, is back to this vestibular system that we were talking about earlier. She says the vestibular system supports all 6 eye muscles. It acts as a tripod for a camera and allows the eyes to be able to scan and track for reading and writing, to be able to go across the middle of the body. Just because a child can read an eye chart just fine in the nurse's office does not mean they have perfect vision. So she talks about a boy that came in for treatment. He'd read the eye chart just fine, but he was having trouble with reading. We had him spin and looked at his ability to go from point A and point B with his eyes. As soon as he got to the middle, his eyes would loop like a roller coaster every time. Since his eyes were looping around, he's going to have trouble reading, right? So she says, can you imagine if your eyes are looping around, you're going to have trouble following the words on the page. So look at this. He had 2 weeks of vestibular treatment and was then able to control his eyes. Lo and behold, he could read. Movement is key to be able to have strong eye muscles that can work as a team. So, I think, like I said before, you have so much influence over these parents that are coming in the summer and trying to figure out, and year round too, but trying to figure out, what are they going to do with their children? And, if they're sort of combining this outdoor play and their reading, is really going to help set them up for success. So once again, this is Balanced and Barefoot. And that those vestibular movements, when our head is out of an upright position, that's going to help the kids with their eye tracking and be ready for reading. And I love that it was just 2 weeks. 2 weeks of treatment, sometimes there's quick fixes here. So that's great news. So I just wanted to come with some practical ideas. These maybe are things that you are already doing. I know our library up the road, they did some outside programs this past summer, which I thought was really neat, because just that simple sunlight exposure is helpful for kids and helpful for parents. So it doesn't have to be anything that's really expensive or hard to produce or hard to set up, just simply getting outside. So I had some ideas about, a bingo sheet. So, or a summer, I know you guys are doing oceanography, so this doesn't really fit, but maybe for down the road, or maybe you're already doing some of these things, but could we come up with like read in these different types of environments? Read on a picnic blanket, read at the park, read where you can hear birds, read during the sunset, read around a campfire, read on the sidewalk, those types of things. I thought might be neat, because then, and then you can share with your parents um, why the environment can really enhance their reading experience. And even for the adults, same thing, read on a porch swing, um, you know, read in the center of your city, find a spot and get lost in a book, that type of thing. I know, like I said, our local library, they had some library programs outside this summer. I love this. Teresa says, I always put read outside on my summer bingo sheets. I think that's fantastic. And so, there's ways to sit on top of a slide and read a book, or can you sit on a swing and read, or all these different things, just to encourage kids to kind of combine those things and to remind parents of the value of getting out in nature. So outdoor library programs. So we've sat in a lot of indoor library programs, but often, and some outdoor ones as well. So often, not always, but often the libraries have a little bit of property, and I remember our library growing up in Michigan, the one that was closest to us, they had these huge windows, and it's beautiful nature in the background. So that's really nice too, to have I remember loving to go sit in those spots, and just, you're surrounded by trees and leaves, you can see them through these big windows. But often there's some property, a little bit of property. And so if you're able to take that program outdoors, the bubble program or the magician, whatever it is, scavenger hunt, are any of you guys doing those story walks, where you have the book and it's like printed out on like a little yard sign, and you read the first part on this yard sign, and then you go to the next one. I just think those are so cool, because they're helping to encourage movement. And the same thing, we got the benefits from the sunlight going into the eyes and combining reading. So I really like those story walks, prizes that promote outdoor play. So, that's great. Elizabeth says they're going to do their story walk in October, nature walks, like with a scavenger hunt. So if you are doing any story walks, those are really, really beneficial for kids. And if you're able to even team up with a local park, and put one in a new location where parents can go and check out a new place, I think that's really beneficial. Prizes that promote outside play. So like, for example, we've got a little web shop, but we've got little hammocks. It's like a double person hammock. So what if, along with your books, you have hammocks, or you have a jump ropes, or different things like that sort of combine this being outside and reading, and sort of a celebration of all the things that kids love, especially during the summertime. So I know some of you guys probably live close to each other and might know of, different parks and locations where you could put up a story walk, or have a scavenger hunt, or right even on your own library property, where you can do some of those things. So those are some practical ideas, which it seems like a lot of you are already doing them, which I think is awesome. I have a couple book ideas for parents, and I'm not sure if this is ever an element of your summer program, but these are the three I've already talked about, and I have some other ideas too. So maybe I'll be able to through Amy send out a list. Like, for example, this would be a good one for people that are in Kentucky. There's No Such Thing as Bad Weather. And this is by Linda Ackerson McGurk. She says Scandinavian's mom's secret for raising healthy, resilient, and confident kids. That's a really cool book about getting out in the winter, and getting out in all the seasons, getting out when it's raining and splashing in the puddles. So, I think it's neat for parents to have things to read over the summer as well. I really like the book Simplicity Parenting by Kim John Payne. Glow Kids is a really good book. This one is about screen addiction. There's a lot to learn in this one, how screen addiction is hijacking our kids and how to break the trance. So, what a neat time for parents to learn in the summer about just the benefits of being outside, and how reading and playing sort of go hand in hand to enhance child's development. Um, we have our own book called the 1000 Hours Outside Activity Book that just came out in April. It's low tech nature activities in a high tech world, the 1000 Hours Outside Activity Book. And it's filled with like simple nature paint brushes, simple activities for parents to do with their kids, caregivers, grandparents, teachers, nature designs that are symmetrical, just easy things that are hands on. So that is a fun resource. This one just came out in April. And if you were to get some for your library, you could probably we do bulk. We sell them in bulk sometimes if people are interested. But resources like that, our kids, the feedback we've gotten on this book is that the kids love to look through it because they like to see other kids playing, and the pictures are colorful, and it's all sorts of hands-on ideas in there. So there's lots of great things for summer for parents. And I was going to leave a little bit of time for questions, but just wanted to end with a thank you. I would be most content if my children grew up to be the kind of people who think decorating consists mostly of building enough bookshelves. I'm sure you guys already know that quote. I just love that one. We have a lot of bookshelves in our home. So just wanted to say thank you for the things that you do for kids and the things that you do for parents. 1000 Hours Outside is a resource that you can use year round for the parents and teachers that come into your library. We have a free tracker sheet. We actually have a couple different designs. So this is free. You could print out. A lot of nature centers have these printed out and just sitting on the desk. But we actually color in an hour for every hour that we're outside. And so what we're doing is we're being intentional about adding nature time into our year. We are modeling balance because kids are on screens for 4 to 7 hours a day on average, but they are outside for 4 to 7 minutes. So we really just have this issue of imbalance in childhood. And so these are free on our website, which is 1000hoursoutside.com. And thanks, Hillary, for putting up that link. There's a couple different ones. There's ones that looks like a, I don't have it here. There's one that looks like a sun, so there's some different ones. We've had ones that kids have designed. So there's a bunch of different options on our website for those, and something that you can easily incorporate if you're interested. We did this book I just showed you was supposed to be through a publisher, but they canceled my book after it was already done just because of COVID, and they had cut a bunch of books. So we ended up self-publishing, and so I was able to add in some different people's their testimonials. So this mom from Australia, she says paradigm shifting. That's probably the best way to describe what taking this challenge on and becoming part of the 1000 Hours Outside community has done for our family. And she talks about, that would just with a little bit of prep, outside time doesn't have to fall by the wayside. She says we're more prepared for daily occurrences of puddle jumping, pockets full of treasures, all the mud and muck our 3-year-old can find. We always have an adventure kit. We welcome every moment to add to our tracker. 1000 Hours Outside has truly changed our family's approach to life in such an incredible way. I'm so excited for our boys and all the hours of adventure still in front of them. So we have this, like I said, we got this little sunshine one, and sometimes parents blow these up and they put them out. The kids like it. They like to have a goal, just like how I think they like to have a goal for summer reading programs. And so that's, oh, look at Kate's doing it. Good job. I love that. And I agree that quote is tattooable. So, that this is about whether you get there or not. If you get outside for 500 hours, 502 hours, it's about adding these full moments into our lives and helping kids with their development while making incredible memories as a family. So that's what I've got there. And was there a screen title that you shared too? There might have been another book. I shared Simplicity Parenting as a book for parents as well. And that might have been the only other book I shared. So like I said, I just wanted to really just say you guys are awesome. Thank you for serving children in your area and parents and families. And if you have any questions, we got a couple minutes here. I hope that your conference is going well. And if you ever want to connect, I'm pretty easy to connect with at 1000hoursoutside.com. And that's about it. I know you guys are going to have another session coming up here. But if anybody has any questions, we have a few minutes. Maybe we'll come visit your library sometime because we're not all that far. But thanks, Christy. Thanks, Hillary and Susan. Thanks everyone for being here. You could throw in the chat where you're headed next. You guys headed into to any other sessions here today for your conference? Thanks, Angel. Thanks, Elizabeth. Really was excited to be here with you today. Thank you. Thanks, Bookie. Thanks, Molly. Kevin. There you go, Kevin. That's a good idea. All right. Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth, Jennifer, Misty, Susan. Really appreciate you all being here. Maybe someday we'll meet in person. That'd be fun. It doesn't look like anybody really has any questions, which is fine. That's the presentation, I think. Hillary, you've been on it with these links. Thank you so much. It's so helpful.
Yep, she's good. She's quick.
Everybody jut out. I wonder what the next one is. What's next in room 2 here?
Next in room 2 is
what's coming up?
Sorry, is Never Boring.
Oh, Never Boring board games with Jessica. That sounds fun. Yeah, Wendy, that's great. Totally, you can share it with school. A lot of people do. A lot of gym teachers actually do this with their families. So it fits a lot of places. I think it fits with summer programs and libraries and nature centers and schools and homeschools and all sorts of places.
All right. Well, Jenny, thank you very much. You're welcome to hang out for as long as you want in here. We don't start again till 3
All right, Alicia, am I just supposed to leave?
Yes.
Enjoy your break. Everyone's got a 15-minute break. Go get something to drink and go to the restroom.
Yeah,
enjoy the rest of your day. we don't start again until 3. Okay.
Yes. So if you want to leave this room, just in the upper left-hand corner is little pancakes.
For a couple more minutes.
And you just go down to leave session. But thank you all for attending. And Jenny, thank you very much for being with us today, all the way from Michigan. What part of Michigan are you in?